Let's find out more. This session is brought to you in partnership with Real Metric Analytics. So please welcome your speakers, Niel Cuijvers, Head of Scouting at KVC Westerlo, Beri, Pardo, Sporting Director at Hull City, and to moderate for us, Ryan Cardwell, who is Head of Commercial at Real Metric Analytics. On you come, guys. Niel, Beri, and Ryan going for the sat-down approach as we migrate into lunch. Yes, you're that side, Ryan, thank you. Niel and Beri. Great, over to you. Take us through to lunch, thank you.
Thank you. Well, first of all, thank you for World Football Summit and you guys for being here, allowing us to speak today. We're going to try and take you through a little bit of the journey that recruitment and football operation department go through. What we look for, what's good practice, and how actually that world has evolved into smarter decision making and making sure that we really actually provide insight into the risk of transfers and of salary spends, as we all know, are going through the roof. So we've heard today about how we're being really smart with utilising technology, and that is a big part to play. And we may even go back a little bit to the traditional ways to complement and see how that is. So. Yeah, I'm going to hand over to the guys and let them share their story, which I'm really excited to do today. So best way for me to start is just probably to give you, the audience, a little bit of context here. So Beri, if you could just give us a sort of brief synopsis of your role and what you're designed to do within the club.
First of all, hi everyone. It's very good to be here and be honored to be speaking here. I can't see any of you, but I'm sure you can see me, so probably no problem. So I joined the club around a year and a half ago, around October time in 2022 as head of strategy. At the time, there was a lot of excitement around the new takeover, new ownership. Things were going, in general, positive because people were hopeful, but they weren't very happy about the way we played football, the way we were defensive. We were trying to protect things rather than challenging for higher levels. So they kindly asked for my support, if I could, in terms of aligning everyone towards a more ambitious style and ambitious vision towards the top of the championship and beyond, hopefully. And that required work not only with the playing style or implementing an identity, but also everyone around the club, again, as I said, aligning towards that success and that 1% of doing the extra, whether that's the food that comes out on the training ground, to the marketing guys, to sponsorship, to coaches, training sessions, everything. So part of that was the head coach change, and we did a lot in terms of, again, showing our identity, playing towards the style, which helped and got impacted by the recruitment as well. And then a year later, last summer, the owner thankfully promoted me to the sporting director role for us to give a little bit more support and take a little bit more responsibility. So we're happy with where we are, but we're not content.
Absolutely. And we'll come on to the intricacies that role has shortly. Niel, the Westerlo story is one that fascinated me from engaging with you and speaking with you, and I'd love for you to share that story with everybody here today. So where you've come from in not only just personally, but as a club in recent years, coming from the second tier and developing. So yeah, please do. Share.
The club has a long time history in Belgian football, but due to financial limitations, it faced problems and to grow further. So the club has been bought by Mr. Oktay Ercan in 2019. He aims to create an example football club for investors in the sport. At that moment, the club was playing the second tier of Belgian football. Due to the history of the club, it deserves to play at the highest level, but the structure of the club and the facilities were not on the right level. So his first goal was to rebuild the club, to improve the facilities and structure of the club. Structure-wise, for example, we had just only 3 full-time employees at that moment. In 2019, he appointed also Mr. Hassan Chetinkaya, who was for more than 10 years the sports director of Fenerbahce. a significant investment was made to rebuild the club. The other goal was to promote back to the highest level within 3 years. In 22, we achieved this. Nowadays, the club has more than 50 full-time employees, reflecting its growth. For example, since 6 months ago, we started to use a brand new base camp. With this top facility, we belong to the top 6 in Belgian football. It shows also the commitment to grow further in Belgian football. About our mission statement of today is, we want to be a healthy club and stable club at the highest level with consistent performances, development of young players, community building, and last but not least, embracing technology and innovation in football.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think that's a really great piece, Niel, because obviously your role is to recruit players and develop people, but actually the alignment of the organisation is as such that you drive that through whatever department, and that's a real important factor, and hopefully something that we'll share and touch upon now. And have we seen across multiple leagues in recent seasons, financial fair play, financial implications are becoming more and more common. They're coming with more severity. We've seen points deductions here in the Premier League this year, for example. And as part of that, it's been more important than ever now for clubs and decision makers within that clubs to have really good insight to make good quality decisions on some of their biggest acquisitions, which primarily are players or managers. How do clubs mitigate that risk? How do they make the right decisions versus to go and progress and be willing to challenge, as both Beri and Niel has just alluded to there. So, Beri, can you just sort of, I guess, give a bit of insight into the change in roles that have happened within football departments, and actually how much implication in your day-to-day working has these financial stipulations come? So, you know, obviously before they were a big part with the budgets, but knowing you can't work outside of these guidelines anymore, have you found a big difference in those roles?
Yeah, it's massive. The togetherness is massive. But what we've been slightly lucky, but slightly consciously decided on Hull City is that they were a very, very clean club with like literally no debt, very clean slate to build upon. So that helped. It was almost like a new club. It was managed so well and so tightly financially that it allowed us to go in very ambitiously and strongly. But it doesn't mean, obviously, as you say, it doesn't mean you can do anything you like. So then it required everyone to work together. So 2 years ago, the average attendance was around 11 to 12,000 tops. So now we're almost selling out every game. We're at 22,000 on average. So we're increasing our gate receipts. Season tickets have more than doubled. People are coming, people are paying, and they're supporting us, and they're believing in us. Our retail sales have just around tripled in 2 years. Sponsorship, so the ownership have this vision and ambition of becoming more international, if not global, over time. And this is already becoming visible. The sponsorship revenues have quadrupled in 2 years. So, and we think there's a lot more room to grow further. So part of the way or the solution to the FFP challenges, which you have to think about all the time, all together at the club, is to increase the revenues in all kind of streams and be innovative and be demanding all the time with each other. And that's what we've been trying to do.
So on that premise, Beri, do you feel that the argument about style versus results on the pitch, do you think actually the style and the change, the more attacking philosophy that's been implemented has seen improvement in fans attending and a more collaborative sort of involvement from the fans?
For sure. Our owner is a media person. He's a media guru, let's say. So he knows about people, entertainment, and make sure people spend good time and enjoy what they're watching, enjoy what they're seeing. So part of that required us to be, as you say, become more attacking, which then helped us massively in terms of attracting some of the best young talents to the club, whether by permanent transfers or loans. So the other thing, again, to refer back to the FFP, is that we think we are the 5th youngest team in the championship based on last season. and we've got a lot of very good, very high-performing young players who can go to a greater length.
Great. It's really interesting because you mentioned there about young players, the development and the return on investment opportunities that come with that. Niel, at Westerlo, you've had many examples of really successful acquisitions under the age of 23, 24. Some of these have come from England, Croatia, Costa Rica, Portugal, and even Australia. How have you put in some of the decision-making processes, and how have you probably convinced the board and the ownership group to take those risks? Because there's a lot of risk attached to some of these players moving from these countries. You know, not only from a playing and performance standpoint, but culturally, how they're going to settle and fit in.
Our business model is to attract young players and give them the opportunity to develop themselves without losing the balance with experienced players who guide them on and off the pitch. First of all, it's important to identify our priority leagues. For this, we look also at the underrated leagues because we are still a small club and we need to be creative on the market. For this, the use of data is very important for us. It gives us the opportunity to detect young players at an early stage. So for this, we are using also an alert center in the Realmatic platform, where we are receiving specific alerts on players. For example, if an 18-year-old striker in South Africa scores on his debut, we receive an alert. Another example, if a right back in Australia of 19 years old made 5 progressive runs in one game, we receive an alert. With this way of working, we create a pool of players and we take in our workflow for the subjective reports. Once we have subjective reports on players, which are positive, we put them on our watch list, and with this tool, we are able to track their performances on a weekly basis. We also use the data to compare with the subjective reports that we have to make the final decision. Overall, the use of data extends our worldwide scouting network, and it allows us to sign players from various regions. But of course, you need to have a good balance with the live scouting, data scouting, video scouting, because the decision is always with your own eyes.
Yeah, and I think that's really important to say. And you know, I know you've alluded to it in conversation with me, how you've evolved with the data literacy and understanding. And would you say that's something that has happened at the senior level as well, because you're now utilising it and you've seen some good examples? You can bring your staff along and manage up to bring them along as well. Yeah, perfect. I think, as we've alluded to here, it's elements of the traditional, it's elements of the modern data approach, and actually it's becoming more and more inquisitive. The amount of information, the amount of data available is vast now, and it's actually how clubs utilise it to their ability and actually customise for themselves. I think it's really vital that that's the case. So we touched upon many of the young players that have been signed or not signed, and Hull City this year has been recognised as a team that develops those, whether that's loan players or their own, as you've alluded to. Could you talk us through some of the processes and principles that are in place, Beri, that enable you to not only pick the right players, but also then develop them into to be able to sell or to keep and progress up the leagues?
The use of data for that was and has been and will be massive for us. But what I would like to add to that is, so we do try to use data to the best of our abilities, but we cannot simply buy someone who is very good at everything. So we have to be very, not only careful, but also very thorough in our process. What can we focus on? What can we improve at a later stage? And also, what data is being produced under which context? So if we were to just give a couple of examples, no, obviously, disrespect to everyone. Everyone's journey is different, but Philogene and Liam Delap. So Philogene was in the championship. We thought he needed to improve as well, but we thought he wasn't given the best platform for his own abilities to shine as much. So we thought our own style and identity would help him show his abilities better, because we created a lot more when we won opportunities for our white players, for example, or different structural elements of our play that help them understand and thrive within that system. Same as Liam, he was also in the championship. The way he was used, we thought we could use him in a slightly different way to help him improve and also make sure that he helps us a lot more than what he could do the previous season. But also, it's about the experience they gain in those teams. So it's a little bit of data and what part of data is important for us, but also some part of style and almost imagination, really trying to put them in your context and how we can make sure that they improve and they gain value and they give value to us. So they've been massive for our improvement, let's say. And the other thing we've assured them is the right environment, which is very easy to mention, the right environment. But what it means is it's very challenging and demanding, but also it's very tight, and they feel embraced, valued, and they can make mistakes, and they can improve in time in a good structured, ambitious environment. And I think that's predominantly what helped us, especially last season.
So, just to follow up on those points and really probably focus in on the development cycle of these, how are you personalising it? And are you really going into the details of those individual players to improve certain areas and certain specifics? And does that then, I guess, relate to what you've done in terms of putting in your player profiles, your positional profiles? Could you just sort of elaborate on that further?
So the clearer you are with your playing style, identity, club philosophy, the easier it becomes for you not to recruit, because it's always difficult, but the easier it becomes to know what you're looking for. So we thought, again, by not simplifying but clarifying to the players that you need to be improving this, or we will be working with you on these elements to make sure that you show your best abilities, or you make sure to make sure you're ready for even the next level and beyond. It's part of it, obviously, is coaching, but part of it is about, as an individual, as a sports person, how they improve, how they are trying to win every time, how they're trying to improve every single day, every single session, even a small-sided game, try to win it all the time. That's, I think, when you add those small bits all together, that's how it helps on a bigger picture to the club.
Great, thank you. That's quite an interesting point, and it's something that currently data can't provide, is that real character referencing, how they work in team in those environments, and how they are with their coaches. It brings me on to Niel, the player that you signed from Melbourne City, Jordan Boss. I'm really fascinated to hear more about how that acquisition came about, and obviously quite a long way away for you to go and watch him too many times live. So how did that come about, and also how did you ensure that those characteristics were going to be suited to Westerlo?
The story of Jordan Boss is like that. So before we signed Jordan Boss, we had the great opportunity to have Maxime de Kuiper on loan for 2 seasons long from Club Brugge. So he was very important for us and had a big impact on our success during that seasons. So for us, it was key to find a good replacement for him. In the 2 seasons that he played for us, he was good for 15 goals and 12 assists, and this for a left back is amazing. So for us, it was very important to replace him. In consultation with the board and the head coach, we set the KPI for this position. And we went on the market with the use of data for him. For example, that season, we received many alerts on Jordan Boss. I think in that season he received 463 alert points in 1 season. So for us it was clear we need to check this profile very carefully. So after we had the subjective reports which were very positive, and compared to the data we already had, it was a good match. So for us, the profile, sportive-wise, is clear. But then we go to the person of Jordan Bos. And for us, in the final phase of a transfer, we go also into the mentality of the player. So we did a checkup in his environment. We spoke to people who have worked with him. All these things were very positive. After we start the talks with the club, Melbourne City, and the player himself, and yeah, all these things were very positive, and the player was open for a project. Despite there was a lot of interest from the clubs in the top 5 leagues, but we had a good track record with Maxime de Kuiper, who is now a national team player, and we have an exciting project for young players. So,
great. I think part of understanding the transfer market and being market savvy, as it's sort of been loosely called, has made elite football operators really highly sought after. You're seeing lots of very public cases here in the Premier League at the moment, with sporting directors are placed on gardening leave, compensation being paid for managers, scouts and sporting directors all the time. And a key component of that is being able to plan for the exits and replace effectively, as Niel was alluded to. Beri, just upon that, could you just explain what you're looking at when it comes to sort of squad planning or succession planning? And would it always be a like for like? Would it be somebody that's based on age, or is it attributes? And just take us through those different ways of trying to build squads and how that happens.
This is actually an interesting area that we worked with Real Metric a lot, which is great for us because of its flexibility and customizability, if that's the right phrase. Because we've already set up, we spoke to them, and we already set up yourselves, and we set up the succession planning alerts and notifications. So we set our own KPIs, as Niel has mentioned as well, because it's within a very short space of time, a few months, some of our players proved that they could be going elsewhere in the future, whether it's this summer or sometime afterwards. In the future, we don't know, but we needed to be super prepared for when that time comes. So we've already set our KPIs, benchmarks, what we want from them, and we're receiving alerts pretty much every week, if not every day. So that's partly preparing us for the departure of whoever of those assets leave in the future to go for more ambitious levels. And but I wouldn't say it's definitely always like for like. It's more about the team building. Sometimes a different part of a squad, team, or position might mean a different profile at a different position may give you the best chance, let's say, of winning more games or having a stronger squad. So I would be slightly, not cautious maybe, but careful about not always trying to find the like for like, because it's not always possible. Just because we mentioned Philogene is in some ways, with our current level and budgets, impossible to replace directly. Yep. But what we can do is to find a replacement for him who can either become like him in the future or do well within the current setup, or the new players that we will be bringing in to maximize their own individual performances and also of the team.
And is that where you think the alignment from, firstly from the budget and how that's set, but also then right the way through from the coaching staff to scouts to analysts, are you then able to really be proactive in that case? So the head coach is saying, we're seeing this in training, he's improving in all of these key areas. And that can be then relayed to the scouts. How important is that communication sort of interdepartmentally?
No, like absolutely crucial, because if the only way to have a chance of success, I think, is through speaking the same language all over the club, and again the alignment and being together and knowing what we're trying to get to. It's not enough to just set a target of, yeah, we want to finish top 6. Everybody knows it's how difficult that is, but what's important is our way and goals of how to get there. So it's definitely crucial, so that, say, the scouts, when they go to a game, they can relate better to our own context, or when we look at the data, we think, yes, a player might be very good in certain aspects of data, but does it translate to what we are trying to do? So that's absolutely huge. So one bit we use a lot is to look at the team profiles, league profiles at RMA as well. So for instance, if you look at a winger, just because we've been mentioning wingers, if he's succeeding a lot in a low block counter-attacking team, does it mean that he's benefiting from that approach and his data gets very positive, or can he actually do more in a different style? So that's actually almost limiting him in a way. So that's where the context comes into play, in addition to the outstanding amounts of and insights of data that we're receiving.
Great, thank you. It's a really interesting and good segue to Westerlo's acquisition of Lyle Foster, Niel. I just wanted to take you back to that. So for those that don't know, Lyle Foster went and became your record signing, your record departure, or record transfer fee. He's gone to Burnley and started to do very well at Burnley. It really highlights what happens when a vital player is sold. And could you just take us through that journey of when you knew about the interest, when you felt like you had to act, and actually when did you act?
At the end of season 2021, we were playing the second tier of Belgian football. When we realized that Lyle Foster could be a possibility for us, we acted quickly because we had already good insight in his potential, because he played already before in Belgium for Cercle Bruges. Despite this difficult period in Portugal, we decided to sign him on a loan with option to buy, which was a great deal for us at that time. So in season 21-22, he showed great things in second division, and he had a very big impact in our promotion to the first division. Already then, many clubs approached him, but we were lucky that we had the option to buy him, what we did. So in season 22-23, the attendance of scouts watching our games increased a lot. So we started to be aware about interest from the top 5 leagues. So for us, as a recruitment department, it's very important to be prepared for everything. So the football world is dynamic. So we are working with the data sets on each of our players. From August till December, we are focusing on every position. So we are ready when something will happen. Also, when we sold Lyle in January 23 for a record fee of 11 million euro, we got a list ready with possible replacements. But as a club, we decided to not replace him, and because the team was in a good flow and we were already safe in the league. So we focused ourselves to the summer window to replace him.
Fantastic, thank you. That's incredible insight that you felt that actually we were okay, and we just waited and bided our time and give yourself a little bit more time to make a better decision. Yeah. With us sort of heading to lunch, and I'm sure there's some hungry people in the audience, we'll sort of ask, I guess, the final question, and to both of you here, and feel free to jump in to give your opinion here. If a club or a federation out there is looking to almost reinvent its recruitment and football operations, where would you start in this process? What objective and subjective information or processes would you like to do?
I think okay.
Beri,
okay.
do you want to take?
Yeah. That's something that we discuss among ourselves as well, and I briefly discussed with Niel as well. I had the chance to. I think it's. I don't want to overemphasize this or say this time and time again, but I think it's very important to get the right information from data and get the right information from your conventional methods, if you like, and marry them together by adding the context to it. Again, it's not only about 2 is bigger than 1, it's about what it shows and what it means, or what it underlines afterwards, or what it means in your context. So the best marriage of the 2 will likely give you the best chances of preparation and somewhere to start with to build, I think.
Yeah.
I agree with this.
Yeah, yeah. I think for me, in summary, what both guys have alluded to today is how important it is to be customized, focused, and driven on what you want to do as a football club or an organisation, and that's paramount. So it can't be what somebody else is doing. You have to be really individualised and tailored to your approach, and that's where you can recruit and you can drive the communication in your language and in your structure and how to go about it. And I think that's a vital thing for us to take away from here and to discuss. We haven't got time for any questions here, but feel free to grab any of us at any point over lunch or this afternoon. And thank you very much for having us.